Okay, we are going to be reviewing for your retake quiz tomorrow on adding and subtracting fractions of mixed numbers. So let's look at number 1. When you add and subtract, remember the first thing you have to do is find a common denominator. And the least common multiple of 8 and 3 is 24. So we are going to make both of our denominators 24. We have to multiply 8 by 3 and 5 by 3. So 5 times 3 is 15. You have to multiply 3 by 8 and 5 by 8. So 1 times 8 is 8. Now we simply add the numerators. I'm going to make my pen just a little thinner. We add the numerators, so 15 plus 8 is 23, and our denominator 24 stays the same. That cannot be reduced. Number 2, our least common multiple of 9 and 5 is the product of 9 and 5, which is 45. And we're subtracting this time, so be careful with your signs. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by 5, so that's going to give me 35. I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by 9, so that's going to give me 18. 35 minus 18, well, 35 minus 10 is 25, and 25 minus 8 is 17. Which is a prime number, and then 45 is our denominator, therefore it cannot be reduced. All right, we're going to go to number 3. Least common multiple of 7 and 4 is 28. If I go too fast for you guys, you're more than welcome to pause the video to write what you need to do and restart it. So our common denominator is 28, so I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by 4, so that gives me 24, and I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by 7. So that gives me 21. I'm going to add numerators together, so that's 45, and our denominator is 28. But if you'll notice, our answer is an improper fraction. You can't have an improper fraction in simplified form, so we need to change it to a mixed number. 28 goes into 45 one time. And then to find out how many 28s we have left over, we're just going to simply subtract these two. And 45 minus 28, that's going to be 7 and 17. Again, 17's prime cannot be reduced. So our answer is 1 and 17 28ths. All right, we're going to go down to number 4. Let me scroll across here. Now we have mixed numbers. When you are adding and subtracting mixed numbers, you do not change them to improper fractions. But I highly suggest that you rewrite the problem so it's lined up vertically instead of horizontally. Again, we have to find a common denominator, which between 3 and 5 would be 15. So we're going to multiply top and bottom here by 5, so that's going to give me a 10. And we're going to multiply top and bottom here by 3, which is going to give me 3. We're going to add the whole numbers together to 2 plus 3 is 5. Add the numerator, so that's 13. The denominator stays the same. 13 15ths cannot be reduced, so that is our final answer. Same here, we have two mixed numbers, so we have 6 and 7 tenths, but we have subtraction, so we have minus 1 and 3/5. The least common denominator of 10 and 5 is actually 10, so the 7 tenths does not change. But we have to rewrite the 3/5 so that's in tenths. We're going to multiply by 2, so that gives me 6 tenths. But I'm subtracting, so be careful. Don't add the numerators we're subtracting. So 6 minus 1 is 5. 7 minus 6 is 1. And our denominator is 10. Okay. Moving on to number 6. And again, if I'm going too fast, remember you can stop the video, go back and rewind if you need to, but I'm going to just keep moving at this pace. All right, again, we are subtracting. Again, let's rewrite it so it is vertical. And we have to find a common denominator again, which here would be 21. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by 3, so that gives me 12, and top and bottom here by 7, which gives me 7. Subtract the whole numbers, which would be 1. Subtract the numerators, which is 5. The denominator, 21, stays the same. It cannot be reduced because 5 and 21 do not have any common multiples, or factors, sorry. Moving on to the next problems, number 7. We're subtracting again. This time we have common denominators already, but as I'm writing this, you should notice that 5 is less than 7. I can't subtract here. So if you recall, we're going to have to borrow from the whole. We're going to borrow from the 5 and make that a 4. And to get our numerator, technically we are going to add 12 twelfths. And if you recall the shortcut, we just simply add the denominator and the numerator together, and that becomes our new numerator. So now we can subtract. Again, we subtract the whole numbers. 4 minus 2 is 2. 17 minus 7 is 10 twelfths. But why are we not finished with this problem? Right, we can reduce the 10 and the 12. So the 2 stays the same. 10 and 12 both have a common factor of 2. So we're going to divide top and bottom by 2. And that leaves us with 5 6. All right, number 8. Again, we have subtraction. We have a common denominator already in 10. But again, if you'll notice, we have 3 minus 9, which we can't do within a mixed number. I suggest you actually stop the video right now and try to do this one on your own, and then come back to it. But I'm actually going to continue as we're going. So I'm going to borrow from the 3, and that becomes a 2. And I'm going to add 10 tenths. That 2, I'm going to give it to the fraction in the form of 10 tenths. I'm going to give a 1. And therefore, I'm going to add 10 plus 3, and that gives me 13. So now I'm going to subtract. 2 minus 1 is 1. 13 minus 9 is 4 tenths. And you'll notice again we have a situation where we can reduce. 4 and 10 have a common factor of 2. So we're going to divide 4 by 2, which gives me 2, and 10 by 2, which gives me 5. And our final answer is 1 and 2/5. All right, moving on to number 9. Again, we're subtracting. So we have 12 and 3/8. This is a very similar problem to what we just did. You should be becoming experts on this by now. We can't subtract and get a negative fraction within a mixed number, so we're going to have to again borrow from the whole. We're going to borrow from the 12, and that becomes an 11. And recall, we just add the numerator and the denominators here, and our new numerator would also be 11. And now we can subtract. 11 minus 4 is 7. 11 minus 5 is 6. Denominator 8 stays the same. And again, this can be reduced. 6 and 8 have a common factor of 2, which gives us 7 and 3/4. All right. Last 3 problems. All right, we have 7 and 2/3 minus 2 and 4/5. We do not have a common denominator this time, so we need to find a common denominator, which is going to be 15. So we have to multiply top and bottom here by 5, so that gives me a 10, and top and bottom here by 3, so that gives me a 12. But you'll notice again that we're going to have to borrow. So we're going to have to borrow from the 7, and that becomes a 6. And we simply add the denominator and the numerator, and we get a new numerator of 25. Now we can subtract. So 6 minus 2 is 4. 25 minus 12 is 13 over 15. 13 is prime, therefore we cannot reduce. All right, well, what do we do if we have a whole number? So we have 8 minus 2 and 3/5. Well, we're actually going to do the same thing we did before, and this becomes a little bit easier in the sense that I don't have to add to a fraction that's already there. I'm just going to borrow from the 8, make that a 7, and I'm going to have 7 and 5/5 because 7 plus 5/5 is 8. And now I can subtract. So 7 minus 2 is 5. 5 minus 2 is, or excuse me, 5 minus 3 is 2. and my fifth stays the same. This cannot be reduced, so that is your final answer. And finally, and you know what, guys? I want to change this one a little bit because I don't think that we have touched upon a problem that we need to look at. I'm going to change this to addition, and I'm going to change this to a 2. And let's change this one here to an 8. So we're going to have 6 2/3 plus 2 8/9. All right. Thank you for changing that for me. Because I don't think we've had to give back to the whole number if we have an improper fraction within a mixed number, which you'll see tomorrow. First thing we have to do is find a common denominator, which is going to be 9. So we're going to multiply top and bottom here by 3, so that's 6/9. The 8/9 stays as is. And now we're going to add. We're going to add our whole number. 6 plus 2 is 8. And we're going to add our fraction, so that gives me 14/9. But if you'll notice, we have an improper fraction within a mixed number, which we cannot have. So we have to take out a whole in the form of 9/9, and we're going to give it to the 8. And that gives me 9, and then 14 minus 9 is 5, and then our denominator 9 stays the same. All right, if you need to go back over any of these problems, feel free to go ahead and do that, and good luck on your retake tomorrow.